It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, November 12th. And so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, do not follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have the world news, evangelism word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It is a wonderful and awesome Wednesday. We've hit the midweek point. Don't forget we have Q&A Thursday tomorrow and also every single week. So get those questions ready. Send it to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is Learn, Price, and Value. All right, guys, it is Wednesday. We're at the midweek, and if it's the 12th already, we're basically, by the time we hit Friday, it's going to be the 2-week mark. So that's pretty crazy, guys, that we're going to be at the halfway point of November already. I know for a bunch of people over there in the U.S., I think Thanksgiving is just around the corner too, so it's going to be another wonderful holiday over there, but not for anywhere else in the world. You know, it's kind of like in Korea. You have like the Thanksgiving in September, or was it the beginning of October? You have Chuseok, right? America has their huge influential Thanksgiving. And why is it influential? Because everyone celebrates Black Friday, even though they don't have Thanksgiving in their countries too. So it has been a very, very busy week. A lot of new things that are happening. Of course, I was telling you guys that a lot of newcomers are studying. I am meeting people one-on-one for some newcomers here and there too, mainly for those that are doing really, really well. I also think that, when I hear about newcomers and how they're doing, one of the most important things is, we really need to assess newcomers really well, whether they are good or are they someone who's good enough, not good enough. Are they ready? That's a big question. Are they ready to hear the word and stuff like that too? The best part about me doing the Zoom Bible studies is not so much me. I'm not the one who's actually going around and trying to, I'm not the one who's evangelizing. I'm not the one who's taking care of these people. It's all being done by other people from around the world in different countries. And the main thing that has to happen here is not so much, the main thing that's got to happen is, all that assessment, discernment's got to be done by the managers and stuff like that too. But lately, there's actually, as of recent, because of the Zoom Bible studies I'm doing, and we have about a good, close to 50 people studying right now. One of the good things is the first Bible studies we've done on Mondays. We're 5 months in. We're getting ready to go into it to the advanced lessons. And now is a time to really discern and check to see whether these people are ready or not to listen to it. So this one person who's doing really, really well, she is a newcomer from Mexico living in Korea right now for school and such. And we've kind of gotten down to, they're ready for Slander education, right? So it's a little bit interesting because we're in Korea, and I think this is something that we do need to recognize for Korean members, okay? Korean members are dealing with slander at a completely different level, right? I'm sure all of us can agree with this. The slander in Korea is much different and way stronger than any other country, right? Because this is where Sunsim is. So one of the hard parts is sometimes you'll have Korean members with these foreigner newcomers, and they treat them like a Korean newcomer who is going to obviously know who we are, everything else. But when you look at foreigners don't really know. And I would say in a lot of cases, a lot of foreigners don't even care. I've seen that before too. Even when we look at, when we have newcomers, foreigner newcomers that were evangelized in Korea, they're coming to Wonmyeongdong and stuff, and they're just cool, great place. All right, good. And then that's it. It just ends there. There's nothing else that goes on besides that, And we're kind of looking at that a lot of times in Korea, when you have a newcomer, you need to really, really prepare these newcomers before they come to Wonmyeongdong, because once they know Wonmyeongdong, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I know what this place is, right? But for foreigners, it's just like, oh, another temple, cool. All right, cool. Oh, it's Christian. Oh, cool. And it just ends there. So for me, is especially when we're dealing with the newcomers, foreigner newcomers in Korea, they're not gonna know as much as a Korean newcomer, and on top of that, like they're the amount that they actually care about it is a little bit different. It's a different level than those that are Korean, right? So I was like, oh, okay. So there's this one newcomer from Mexico. I was like, okay, I got to do slander education. I haven't done slander education in forever, right? It's been a long time since I've been lecturing and really be consistently lecturing people and stuff. And there, this is a Catholic girl from Mexico, studying in Korea. She's in school here, but just really, really interesting. It's just interesting to be able to talk to someone in Korea, knowing their situation, and like they don't really know as much as a Korean newcomer would, right? And it's time for slander education, and I did this on Monday or Tuesday. I think I did on Tuesday. Was it Monday? Monday or Tuesday? One of the 2 days. And I need, we're trying to help people understand who we are, what is the situation in Korea, right? And why people are saying these things against us and stuff. And it's kind of exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. And it was Monday evening, right? And it turned out much better than I thought it would. And basically told, hey, this is where Sunseam is right now. This is the situation. And they just kind of understood the situation really well. I was surprised, actually. I was surprised that there was no reaction. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, okay. And I'm kind of like, is that it? Is there going to be more? But that was it. And she just handled all the information really well. And one of the things I do, whenever it comes to slander education, one of the things that I do talk about that I would probably say that most people don't talk about is actually, and I've researched this years back, and I realized how important the trial of Jesus is because it's easier to compare to what is happening right now. Right? So for those of you guys who don't know the trial of Jesus, remember the trial of Jesus happened, 2,000 years ago, and it's in a system and a law that's different than today. And to be honest, the Jewish law, the Talmudic and the Mosaic law, they're actually much more stricter. It's so much stricter than the laws we have today. It is way stricter, right? And it's actually always in favor of the person being accused. Oh, it's always. And like, there's several reasons why it's several reasons why it's always advantageous for the person being accused. Because interestingly is this, there are no lawyers. Right? Like today, you have lawyers that are like, they know the law inside out. They know the loopholes, this and that, right? Back in 2,000 years ago, there were no lawyers, no defense, no prosecution. If someone accused you, they came in with zero lawyers. And they had to prove to the ruling council, okay? So this is where it gets even crazier, okay? So they have to prove to 72 of the best and brightest lawyers in Israel. The 72 best and brightest. So these people are absolutely trained in the law. 72 of them, and you have to go without a lawyer to prove that this person is that guilty. And especially, in Jesus' trial, it's capital punishment. It's about death. Right? It's something that cannot be, can you imagine how hard it would be for someone who has, someone without a lawyer, right? Just to go in and have to defend themselves in front of 72 of the best and brightest lawyers in all of Israel, right? Like you probably couldn't even make it past the cross-examination. Okay, so let me kind of tell you why, how interesting it really gets, right? So in the trial of Jesus, very, very strict law, and it's so difficult to accuse someone and send them to the cross. Very, very difficult, right? So on top of it, what becomes even more interesting is uh, they say that the Talmudic and Mosaic law is so strict when it comes to capital punishment that even of the people that deserve to die on the cross, only 10% actually get there. So 90% don't make it to the cross, right? That's how strong the laws are. So you think to yourself, is like, wow, if this law is that strong and only, even if you deserve going to the cross, 90% don't make it, can you imagine what the people are thinking about Jesus, that if he gets convicted, they're like, oh, he must have really deserved it, right? So there's a ton of mistakes that were made in Jesus' trial by the Sanhedrin. And when you see it, it's in the scriptures too. It's very, very clear, right? One of the first things is when you look at Talmudic law, okay? One thing that is absolutely forbidden is night trials. Night trials are forbidden, okay? So the Sanhedrin, which is a Jewish ruling council, is required to meet in daylight when the sun is out, especially capital cases, which has to do with the death penalty, and it could not be held at night, okay? So the first thing here we see is like, okay, so when did Jesus go to trial? Actually, remember, is right after the Garden of Gethsemane, which is in the evening after the sun went down. Jesus, after praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, the guards came and they took him away and took him and they took him directly to trial, which means Jesus was taken to trial at night. And according to the Jewish law, it is forbidden. So that is something against the Talmudic law, right? So, Talmudic law, in the Talmud, right, it says criminal cases can be tried only in the daytime and must be concluded in the daytime, okay? So there's the first problem with the trial is, since the trial was done at night, it should have already been thrown out, okay? Second thing wrong with the trial is trials cannot be on feast days. Jesus' trial was on Passover, right? So that's another part of the Talmudic law. Talmudic law says that they cannot be held at night or on a feast day, and this was held during the Passover. So there's another problem with Jesus' trial. It should have been thrown out. Third one, if you look at Luke chapter 22, verse 54, it says that after seizing Jesus, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. Third problem is it was held in a private home, the chief priest's home. The Sanhedrin must meet in the hall of hewn stone inside the temple. It cannot be done in a private home. There's problem number 3. That should be thrown out again. Now, when we get into the trial itself, one of the biggest things is witnesses cannot come alone. You must have other witnesses that support your testimony, okay? And if you look from Mark chapter 14, it does talk about Jesus' trial. And if you look at like verse 56, it says, many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree, okay? So you see that if the statements don't agree, these testimonies should not stand. And actually here, you should throw it out already. But even if you look from verse 57 to 59, it says, then some stood up and gave this false testimony against Jesus. We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days will build another, not made with hands. Yet even then, their testimony did not agree. So the moment these testimonies are not agreeing with each other, with these witnesses that are trying to come against Jesus, what happens? It should already be thrown out multiple times just in the beginning of the trial itself. Fifth problem, well, you can say that those are already 2 or 3 more times where witnesses didn't agree, right? The fifth big problem was when you look at Mark chapter 14, verse 60 and 61, okay? It says that the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. So here's where there's something that you have to think about is it says that the chief priest, the high priest, speaks. Now, one thing you need to know is during a trial, under Talmudic law, you're going to have these 72 of the best and brightest lawyers and priests and teachers of the law all going to be sitting that are in the Sanhedrin, right? That are trying this case. What happens is You sit from the youngest and the least experienced sitting on the left to the high priest that's on the right. And it always goes from left to right because in the society, in the Jewish society, it's kind of like Asian culture. If you are highly respected, the older you are, the more experienced, and with your title, right? If you have a high title, what does that mean? You are respected that much more and you can't really go against them. So if the high priest speaks first, it's kind of like everyone you can't go against the high priest. So the high priest always speaks last so he doesn't influence the younger people. The younger ones can say what they truly feel and think, right? However, in Mark 14, verse 61 says the high priest spoke first, right? And the high priest goes to Jesus. Are you not going to answer? Right? And it's kind of interesting because he's like, hey, these people are bringing charges against you. Aren't you going to answer? But the crazy part is the witnesses, their testimonies did not agree. They didn't even agree with each other. That's another problem. But he's like, hey, don't you have something to say about it? But here's the thing. Jesus remained silent. Okay, now what does it mean that Jesus remained silent? And one of the things is in a trial, the person being accused does not have to say anything. Zero. Why? Because one of the things you need to understand is in the court of law, in the Talmudic law, you cannot testify against yourself. Like you can't even confess that you did it. Right? So when you think about that, you're like, what? You can't even confess that you're the one that did the crime? And the answer is no, you can't. Not in a capital punishment law case. Do you know why? Because what if someone's blackmailing you? What if someone's saying that we have your parents and we're going to kill them unless you confess? So you don't have to say anything. And even if you do, it can't be used against you. It can't. So even that is like, but what happens in Matthew chapter 14, verse 61 to 64, it says, the high priest asked Jesus, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? I am, said Jesus, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. And then the high priest tore his clothes. Why do we need any more witnesses? He asked. You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? Okay, so you cannot use Jesus' testimony against him, but the high priest asked Jesus. Jesus says, I am. And then he tears his clothes and says, all right, it's done. Let's take him away, right? You can't use his testimony against him. Seventh thing, you cannot have the conviction on the same day, right? So not only was it bad, it was in the evening. You cannot convict on the same day. And in Mark chapter 14, 64, 65, they all condemned him as worthy of death. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him, whatever it was, right? So there's two problems here. Number one is, in the law, you cannot convict on the same day. After the trial is over, you're supposed to have at least 1 day of reflection and thought. But instead, they all deemed him worthy of death, which means that not only was it at night, but they didn't have that 1 day break to make the final conviction, right? There's another problem. Another one is they basically had the conviction at night. It cannot be done at night. The conviction must be done during the daytime too, right? So we have all these multiple problems happening at the time of Jesus, and you see how hard Satan is working to make Jesus become guilty, right? And, even like they start spitting on him, blindfold him, struck him and stuff, even in in the judicial process, you can't physically abuse the person before the actual conviction or the verdict itself. So there's another problem right there. And it just kind of shows you how unfair and unjust the trial of Jesus was, right? And the reason why a lot of people don't study about Jesus' trial, the reason you don't study about Jesus' trial that much is because people, like Christians today, they don't care, right? Don't you think it's fair to say Christians don't care about Jesus' trial? They don't. Jesus' trial makes no difference to people. Why? It doesn't make a difference because they already believe him as the Messiah, and the trial they already look at as, it's just part of the thing. It's not a big deal. It's okay that Jesus was convicted, whatever it is, right? And when you think about this, it's true because even when I talk to Christians and Catholics, no one cares about the trial, right? And even if I bring these things up, they'll just think it's interesting, but it doesn't change anything that they think because they already believe he's the Messiah. They've already received the Holy Spirit, right? And it's very, very interesting because for us, in our time, it is a big deal. People are going to say, hey, didn't he go to trial? Didn't he go to this? Didn't he go to that? And that even people who are in Providence, right? People who are in Providence, and then they will get affected by the trial. But then today it's like, oh, well, Jesus, no one's affected by Jesus' trial. Oh, what's going on kind of thing, right? And the answer is because we are in real time where Christians today, they don't care about a trial that happened 2,000 years ago, right? Like Jesus, Christianity is already the mainstream religion of the world, basically, right? It's got like over 2 billion people, 3 billion people that are Christian, right? So it's not a big deal for people today. But for us, it is because we're in real time. And I would say that in real time, if you go back to 2,000 years ago when people were living at the time of Jesus, when Jesus was convicted, it was a big deal. People were struggling with it. Like, how can this person who claims to be the Messiah get convicted like this? You know what I mean? So when you look at that in that way, it's like, oh, okay. So like looking at it at real time, you will understand what the Christians went through 2,000 years ago easily just by looking at how people struggle today during the trials that are happening today in today's time, right? And it's something where you kind of look at when you see Jesus' trial and you see how unfair it was and you see like, oh my gosh, it happened like that. When you see how unjust the trial of Jesus was, it's something that you can understand for today too, right? Because one of the things I do talk about when you look at the first trial of Sunstein. Remember Sunstein was for 10 years, that first trial? Tell me how crazy it is that in the middle of the trial, one of the people that accused Sunstein all of a sudden says, all right, I was lying. And we were coached to think this way. And KDH was the one that coached us to talk like this. And none of it is true. In the middle of a trial. And even the judge is like, you do know that if you say this, it means you committed perjury and you could go to jail. And the person's like, fine, just take me to jail. I'm fine. But I can't in good conscience do this. So you'll see that even then, that's something like, whoa, that's bad, right? Like that's in the middle of a trial where one of the people accusing is admitting that they lied and they were coached and all the other accusers were coached too. They were coached to do it too. So we're like, wow, okay, so that's bad in itself. And like, think about this. During the first trial, was it one or two of the accusers said that they were violated so badly that they could barely even walk the next day. That's what they said in trial. And then we show video footage of these same people the next day laughing and smiling and walking around, which means their testimony did not agree. They could walk, they could run around, they could do this and that. They were lying about it, and we had the footage for it. So you think to yourself, it's like, wait, isn't that enough to say that this is a sham trial? And then not only on top of that, it was building so much bad public opinion against them because the news and the media were giving false things about Sunstein during the time of the trial. There was an investigative journalist during the first trial that said, this doesn't make any sense because the news and the mainstream media is saying that people in Providence kidnapped someone. That's huge. Imagine if we actually kidnapped someone. But this journalist went to the police station where the kidnapping was reported. They got the actual report. And it wasn't kidnapping, it was simple assault. Simple assault is not even regular assault. Simple assault is like someone wants to go this way, but I grab their arm and say, no, let's go this way. That is simple assault. You're not going to go to jail for that type of thing, right? And the media reported it was kidnapping. So what do you think the public's thinking? But when you look at the real report, it's simple assault, right? And if you guys have seen like this footage too, there was manipulation of audio. There's manipulation of photographs where, there's a picture of Sunstein at the swimming pool and he's taking a picture with like 10 girls in a swimsuit, right? But when you look at the original picture, there's actually also guys in the picture. There's a lineup of guys too. So it's like 10 guys, 10 girls, and Sunsim taking a picture together, right? And it's at a swimming pool, which means they're all going to be wearing swimsuits, right? So all of this, when you look at that, when you look at like even the trial, it's really crazy. And what's even more interesting is I think I told you guys this a while back, maybe about a month or 2 months ago. There was a pastor from the former faith in Korea coming to us and telling us that no, Sunsim was unfairly treated. He shouldn't even be in jail. And one of the things he brought up is at the time, the judge was one of the elders of the church where the president of Korea was. Like, so this judge is in the same church as an elder in the church of the president of Korea. And he's like, yeah, so, there was high influence on this because public opinion was so bad that Sunsim had to be convicted or it would look bad on the president. So even this Christian pastor was telling us these things and we're like, what? And this guy was agreeing on our side, right? So the more and more we see this, we're like, oh, this is so crazy. But think about it. When people look at it from that perspective and that point of view, what they understand is that like, oh, this is what's going on. This is what's actually happening, right? So, just kind of showing you the difference between what is happening in like at Jesus's trial and then also seeing what happened in Sunsim's trial too. There is a big difference. There is similarities, right? And that's why we're able to understand. And one thing that, especially because I know about, Mexico is like right next door to America and Canada, right? We're all in North America. Interesting thing about Mexico is this. Mexico also has a very corrupt justice system, especially when you have like the cartels, the Mexican cartels. There's one of the most famous leaders of the Mexican cartels. His name is El Chapo. Like even in Mexico, everyone knows that the justice system is not fair because they're being all paid off by the Mexican cartel and stuff like that, right? So it's kind of interesting is like even they know, like I can just talk to this newcomer and say, you know what the Mexican justice system is? And they'll be like, oh yeah, we know how corrupt it is. We know that a lot of these people are guilty, but because they have so much power and so much money, they're able to be that, they're able to get off scot-free and they don't go to jail and this and that, right? And he's like, yeah, that's a normal thing. So even when I bring that up, I was like, yeah, got to also know that Korea is very, very similar too. There's certain parts of the justice system that isn't very good, right? So it's interesting, and I hope it's something that we can really, really understand more. And so I kind of went over this, and I did want to talk to you guys about this also because, so it's something where I look at it, I'm like, yeah, this makes a little bit more sense. This is understanding, right? So I did this slander education, and I'm hoping that it does help a lot more people too within. I am going to be meeting some more newcomers this week too. One newcomer's already learned, also Mexican, but from America, and seeing what this situation is. I did meet someone else last week too. So it's very, very interesting and something that's moving forward. And I hope it's something that we can really, really move to we can really see what is happening and what Satan is actually doing at this time. All right. Either way, I got so much more to say. I'll talk more about it tomorrow. Okay. So let's have before we get into today's evangelism word study, let's first move into the first music break of the day.
The word you preach amazed me. Why do I feel this pain? Ooh. don't lose this love, that love will last forever. And as much as I know you're the best thing in my life, I will always tell you that I love you every time. It's 1978, this feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? It's 1978, this feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? People believe in their fantasies but not God, and that's the problem. That's why they say that it's too hard. No matter how blazing your love may be, our meetings and conversations are the same, you see. You can't let this love go to waste, doing the same things day to day. We're at the same place. Let's speak with hope about new things and the things you have done. I want to get closer to you, I want to give you my love. If you do not enjoy this love, it will disappear. When your thoughts are hard changes, he will take away your blessing. Gotta find your form, find your mission, and just find your blessings. Let's just get back to the old days and find out the temptations. I wanna get to know you, I want to show you that I can give you the word in many places, many spaces. I have seen a lot of people come and go. You're gonna make it, do your absolute best to reach the final destination. Yeah, it's 1978, this feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? It's 1978, this feeling is so great. The word you preach amazes me. Why do I feel this fate? Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you. Can I get to know you? I just wanna know you.
All right, so let's get into today's evangelism word study. And, it's such an interesting topic. When we think about evangelism, I think to myself is like evangelism is one of the top things that we're called to do, to spread the gospel. It's the last thing even Jesus said before he went into heaven was preach the gospel to the ends of the earth, right? And baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So we have this amazing, it's about evangelism. Evangelism is so big. We have been saved, so we should save others, right? And that's kind of like the motto we have is we should, even something in the message, all of us should be evangelizing at least one person a year kind of thing, right? So the interesting thing is when we look at evangelism and the future, what we see in the future, it's an interesting question. What is evangelism actually, how is evangelism going to actually start to work and get better? Right? Are we going to actually sit down and see what we should do and we shouldn't do, or research how we're doing it so we can do it in a different way? You know what I mean? It's an interesting question, something we really, really need to think about. What works and what doesn't work, and how much are we really trying to figure this out? What do I mean by really trying to figure this out? Is it just a mentality thing? We don't have that do it until, we're going to do it until we die. I'm going to give up my life for this kind of thing. Is it work ethic? Is it skill? Is it spirituality? It's an interesting thing to think about, right? And sometimes we might think to ourselves, maybe it's just a wicked time period. It's just not going to be that good. Or how much of it's going to be on our side and how much of it is God's responsibility? It really makes me think I would like to know, to be honest, where is a very healthy and good place for evangelism? Is there a place like that that's doing that well? Because there's just way too many variables. And one thing I'm looking at now is, especially when I'm doing Zoom Bible studies, I'm taking a look at the situation and researching these are how many newcomers that originally started. These are how many that are still studying. These are how many that are getting into advanced. These are how many that are getting ready to pastor, whatever it is, right? And I'm hey, if we originally had around 40-ish, right? Well, we've had 50 sign up, but I don't think all of them are still studying. Probably about a good 40-ish. Maybe no, less than 40, in the 30s probably, right? And I would say that if we can pass 3 people, that's great. That would be amazing. If 3 people could actually be evangelized. And yeah, three to four would be awesome, because that would kind of be in line with kind of statistically what it's supposed to be like. Like, for instance, when we look at all, like there was this one time way in the past is talking about statistics. When we look at the average statistics of churches, what is considered healthy growth, what is, how many people should there around, how many people should there be running, right, inside of a church. And like, there's a bunch of different things. Like, for instance, when you look at a church, if you have 100 people in the church, now when I say 100 people, I'm not meaning 100 people, like a true 100. True 100 meaning not including Milky Ways, right? So if you have 100 people, about 100 people inside your church, there should be there should be around 10 people running. It doesn't mean that they're all running full-time Providence, but it's just 10 people running, right? So you have 10 people running, it should be about the average, okay? So if you're looking at like a normal church, about 10% of your church actually runs, okay? So take a look at your churches, and do you have about 10% running? And of course, if you get to very, very small numbers, like tiny numbers, like your church only has 5 people, it's going to be a very different situation. Even if you have 10 people in your church, you might have 2 people running, which is 20%. So you can't really look at it in that way, right? So you kind of look at a regular, like a church of 100 people, you should have about 10 people running. Remember, not all full time, but there's about 10 people that are like at the front lines. So now that you have 10 people at the front lines, then you guys are going out to meet a bunch of people. So what is like the proper growth of a church? And the way Sunstein put it, he said like 20%, which means in a church of 100 people, you should be growing 20 people a year. I was just like, wow, that's a huge number. And I thought to myself is like, why is that a huge number? 20%. Okay, why is that a huge number? And then I thought to myself is, it's only a huge number because it's so small right now. Like we're nothing close to the 20%. We're nothing close to it. Like Providence in general, I think that we're probably growing like 3 to 5%, maybe 3 to 5%. That's what I think. Like I totally do not see any church growing at 20%. But sometimes like, no, you should be growing at 20%. I was like, dang. But I also realized I'm only thinking this way because our numbers are that small right now. Like we're not anything close to it, right? I would be surprised if there's any church doing 10%. I would be very shocked by it, right? And, a lot of times people will try to fudge numbers, meaning they'll be like, oh, if we don't count Milky Way, and then we have some people that are inactive and this, and this. And it's like, well, you know what? Every church is going to have inactive people. They're just not really strong at that moment. Yeah, that's a normal thing that happens in any church. You're going to have inactive people, but they still count. They're inactive, but it's not like they left, right? Yeah, you're always going to have people struggling, always have people kind of going on quote unquote vacation, right? So it's something where you don't want to fudge the numbers. You just want to be honest with yourself within this church, right? It's like, where are we really, really at, right? And look at yourself over the last 5 years. What percentage have you guys grown? I know it sounds like a business, but this kind of like, what is a healthy church? And we should have some goals to strive by. And a lot of times we have these goals, we just don't reach it. And we try to think to ourselves, like, what is the best, what can we do to change it? And I just think that this is something that should be part of research, right? It should be part of research. It should be something that we should think about. It should be something that we're looking at and saying, what can we do to grow better, right? What can we do to grow better? And of course, when we look at this week's message of like learn price and value, I don't want to make church sound like a business, because obviously it's not a business. Technically it's like the business of life, but we don't want to treat it like money, right? And like assets and we don't want to talk about it in that way. Of course, for some people who are in business, it's kind of a normal way of talking. But I do think it's something that we have to think about more carefully. And we need to understand in such a way that we're going to be like, Oh, so, if we really want to be a healthy church, what constitutes a healthy church? You know what I mean? And I think it's something that we should really like open our hearts and our minds to and really think to ourselves and say, what, you know, in order for us to grow, in order for any organization, right? We're not talking just business, organization in general. In any organization, regardless of anything, what is the most important thing, right? And one of the biggest things that needs to be done is research, right? We need to research. We need to figure out, what do people want? Why is our method not a good method? Why is there a better method than what we're doing right now? Like, there's all these things we look at, we're like, what is going to be the most important thing, right? And I am hoping that we can understand that that we can't just not do anything, no research, and just expect everything to happen just by doing the same thing over and over again. Like, it just doesn't, if you're doing the same thing and you're not getting anything done and there's no results, it means you got to change the way you do it. Like, that's just basically it. And what does it mean to change? Sometimes it's not about changing the method. Sometimes it's just changing the level, right? The level of how you do it, right? So some people can lecture the exact same way, but some people are going to do what? They're going to change the level of prayer. Like, they're going to pray differently. They're going to pray like fasting 3 days. They're going to do overnight prayer. They're going to pray a crazy prayer before that lecture or before meeting someone, or like, there's always going to be another way that you can raise the level. Like I said, sometimes we got to change the level of how we do things. And sometimes we just got to change the entire method of how we do things also, right? And it's something that we do have to bring ourselves to understand that much better. And we do need to know that, this life that we live and how we're living it is not something where we look at from like a regular perspective. Like, not regular. It's too simple of a perspective. You know what I mean? It's something that we have to really get ourselves to understand and push ourselves to research, to study, to look in how to do things better. Like, even as a lecturer, there's going to come a point where you get bored of your own lectures. You just can't help it. But you got to research, start doing more. You got to have more realizations. You got to change the way you do things, right? And in all honesty, 30 lessons are always going to be pretty much the same stuff, which means there's not going to be a huge difference in the way you teach the 30 lessons. There's just not. There's only so many ways you can say the exact same thing. You know what I mean? So even when you look at that, you're like, okay, so even then, there's only so much that I can change to it. So what can I change to make it better? Because I can't change the content, right? You can cook it in different ways, but eventually it gets to a point you'll find like the most efficient and best way to teach it. But then it's like, well, what else can I change? The level of my prayer, the time I pray, how much I pray. Should I fast? Should I do this? How much more spiritual? Like, there's just so many things we need to think about besides this. And I do think we have to bring ourselves to understand to a certain level of how we do things. And I'm hoping that we can really get ourselves to know the words more deeply and be able to teach more deeply and to be more spiritual, have a better mentality. But these are like very, very conceptual words. And because they're so conceptual, like, the only thing we can do is literally just try and see how it works and how it happens. Like, that's literally the best we can do. Hey, how can I make it better? What's going to be better? How can I do this in this way, kind of thing, right? So I do think we need to research more. I do think we need to experiment more. I do think we need to do things in a different way. And whether it's raising the level or trying new methods, we've got to do something. And I hope it's something that all of us can really bring ourselves to understand that much more too, right? Either way, yeah, there's a lot of thoughts I have on evangelism. And the only way I'm going to actually be able to give you really, really good advice is actually right now, as I'm lecturing and as I'm teaching and as I'm seeing evangelism happen right now. That's where it's going to be like, oh, this worked and this didn't. But to just sit there on conceptual ideas and speculation, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for me to even give anything really substantial. Right? Either way. So that's kind of what's in my thoughts, what's in my heart right now. Hope it's something that that we can start doing even better and more together. And I hope it's something that we can really push ourselves so that we can do things to reach a new level also. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is the Evangelism Word Study. Just some thoughts and things that I think that we should start trying out and testing out in a different way. If you have any questions or anything else, comments, put it below. Love to hear from you. Before we get into the world news, let's move into the final music break of the day.
Trinity, rocks and trees with many miracles, learn and testify. Please be with us. We need you, God, as we walk this path of life. We will face hard times forever. We will run. The truth will prevail. Look, learn, run with the Lord. Look, learn, run with the Lord. Running for this history. Running for this history. Look, learn, preach the word of life. Look, learn, preach the word of life. Preach and testify. Preach and testify. Look, learn, preach the word of life. Look, learn, preach the word of life. Preach and testify for this 1,000-year history.
Okay, so let's get into the world news. What is happening around the world today? And just a couple of different things that are happening. We're going to start off with just kind of an update with the typhoon that happened in the Philippines. And thank God, not a lot of people have died, only 2 people. So that, thank God, it isn't a huge one. But there was a typhoon, Feng Wang, is now passing over the China Sea, South China Sea, and expected to head to Taiwan after leaving 2 people dead in the Philippines. About 1.4 million in the Philippines have been evacuated before the typhoon came in on Sunday. And the winds were like at around 185 kilometers an hour, which is about 115 miles, and the gusts of 230 kilometers. So it was a very, very strong typhoon. And it hit the Aurora province in Luzon, and that's the country's most populous island, right? And it weakened to a typhoon hours later. But I know this typhoon comes days after earlier storm Kalmegi left nearly 200 people dead. So the Philippine authorities are reporting less severe damage than expected, though a number of communities are still cut off by the floods. But, these natural disasters that are happening right now, we're seeing that God is cleaning things around the world, and it's something that we do have to pray for more. And let's hope that, it's pretty crazy that this is right after a typhoon that came in. A super typhoon came in earlier and 200 people died, and the second one came in and so far only 2 people. So that's it's a blessing that not too many people have died from this one too. So the country's meteorological service had earlier warned of destructive winds and high risks of life-threatening storm surges from the very intense typhoon. So hundreds of flights were canceled, buildings were secured, and residents in low-lying and coastal areas have been urged to move to higher ground. Okay. In second news, this is also kind of a natural disaster type of thing. It's about Canada and the U.S. And Canada loses its measles-free status. What does that mean? So Canada, in the past, Canada was known for not having a single case of measles, right? And Canada has lost its measles elimination status, right? And this is from the Pan American Health Organization on Monday after failing to curb an outbreak of the virus for 12 consecutive months. And because Canada is no longer deemed measles-free, the Americas region as a whole has lost its elimination status, although individually the other countries are still considered to have stamped out the disease. The U.S., however, risks losing its status as well if it does not stop an ongoing outbreak by January. And related cases have now been reported in Utah, Arizona, and South Carolina. Canada's outbreak began last October, with health officials attributing it to fewer people being vaccinated against measles. And at a news conference on Monday, officials appealed to Canadian governments and the public to ramp up vaccination, noting that 95% of the population needs to be immunized to stop the spread of measles. The loss represents a setback, but it's also reversible, right? So, yes, I'm not sure exactly how many people in... it says here, okay, so the country has reported more than 5,000 measles cases in 2025, with most of them in the province of Ontario and Alberta, and that is 3 times the 1,681 cases reported in the U.S., despite Canada's much smaller population. The bulk of the outbreak has been in under-vaccinated communities. That's from Canadian health officials, right? So it looks like this disease is coming back, and once known as a measles-free country has now had it for over 12 months, and it hasn't been curbed. So that is very, very interesting also. This last study I found, very, very interesting, and something that I think that we have to, I think it's a backlash to social media. And the title is Too Beautiful to Like. Study finds highly attractive influencers get fewer likes on social media. Interesting, right? So in an era where beauty standards on social media are becoming increasingly extreme, a new study suggests that being too beautiful might actually hurt one's online popularity. A research team led by the University of Dayton and the University of Oregon found that influencers perceived as extremely attractive receive fewer likes and follows than those with moderate attractiveness. And the team presented hundreds of participants with mock posts from fictional fitness influencers and analyzed their engagement patterns. And the results published on research-based news sites, the conversation described the phenomenon as the beauty backfire effect. And according to the researchers, highly attractive individuals are often viewed as less relatable or realistic in digital environments. And they noted that this trend was especially pronounced in the fitness influencer category. The findings challenge the long-standing marketing principle of sex sells. While earlier studies suggested that physically attractive models increase click rates and brand favorability, this experiment revealed that modern attractiveness tends to evoke more empathy and engagement. So tone and attitude also played a crucial role. Posts in which influencers used a humble tone and shared personal limits or failures attracted significantly more likes, while those flaunting perfect bodies or talents saw a sharp decline in favorability. Humility can be a powerful communication tool for influencers who might otherwise seem out of reach, the researcher said. And gender differences were also evident. Follow-up studies showed that highly attractive female influencers experienced stronger negative reactions compared to their male counterparts. The team attributed this to the social tendency to judge women's looks more harshly. So the studies highlights how beyond physical appearance, authenticity and relatability have become key drivers of influence in social media era. The researchers plan to expand their work by exploring how variables such as race, disability, and cultural background affect the beauty backfire effect. Interesting, right? So this is the beauty backfire effect, which means that if you are too good looking or too pretty, well, more for girls, right? That you have less favorability and less likes are coming your way, right? So, wow, does that mean like... I'm thinking like, man, would that be something that is so interesting now, right? Because it is true that in the past it was like sex sells, but now it's the opposite, where if you're too pretty, people don't like you. And it's kind of almost like, when you're at the very, very top, like people want to drag you down. And I'm not surprised that women influencers are more likely to be critically evaluated, mainly because women judge more harshly than men, like way more harshly. And I would probably say that if it's really, really pretty influencer, like a girl, I think there's probably going to be more guys that follow them anyways. But it's interesting to see that there is a backfire happening right now, and that would be quite interesting also. But either way, it's something that I looked at and I was wondering, I thought that was quite interesting that there is such a thing as a beauty backfire effect, right? And thank God, yeah. So it's very, very interesting. I thought it was something. I thought it was something very, very interesting that there is some type of backfire that's happening right now. But either way, interesting. I would like to hear what your thoughts are on this too. But yeah, that is the end of today's world news and for the entire Wednesday podcast. Hope you guys have an amazing and awesome day. Let's write in the comments what you guys think about these different news articles or some other news articles you think that I should look at too. Go ahead, take a look at that. Everyone have an amazing, awesome Wednesday. Have an awesome service tonight. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive.